everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to crochet the Yarn Yeti. Known for weaving magic into yarn, this gentle giant is always ready to help students with their crochet projects and untangle even the knottiest yarn. So the Yarn Yeti can be made in sport, DK, or plush weight yarn by adjusting your hook size. However, since the pattern calls for two different sizes of yarn and hook, be sure when choosing your yarns that you size each proportionally to the pattern. This pattern calls for a 3mm and 6mm crochet hook and weight 3 and 5 yarn, and for today's tutorial I'll be crocheting with a 4mm and 7mm crochet hook and weight 4 and 6 yarn. If you haven't already, be sure to snag the matching greeting card to make an adorable and one-of-a-kind gift that your friends and family will love. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so we're getting started on the Yarn Yeti's body, and we're going to be using this super fluffy white yarn. And the first thing that we need to do is form a magic ring. So let's do a quick review on how to get a magic ring formed and how to make the first few single crochet stitches inside. Alright, so let's review how to form a magic ring. So we're going to start by taking a little length of our yarn, and I'm using white for this demonstration. Make sure you're using the correct color for the pattern that you are following along with. So I'm going to take this white, and I'm going to reserve myself a little bit of a tail. So I'm going to take the end of that yarn and I'm going to stretch it so I've got about 5 inches or so of a tail. And the tail is going to be the end that is not attached to our ball of yarn. So once we've got about 5 inches or so reserved of that tail, we're going to take our yarn hand. For me, that's my left hand, but if you're a left-handed crocheter, this might be your right hand. But we're going to take our yarn hand and make a bit of a finger guns here. So my index and my middle finger, I'm going to put them together and I'm going to be looking at the inside of them. Then I'm going to take that tail that I've reserved, that 5 inches, and I'm going to lay it so that it's over the lower digit on my index and my middle. And then I'll take my thumb and I'm going to press the yarn to those two fingers. Then I'm going to take my hook hand, which is for me my right hand, but could be your left hand. And I'm going to grab the working yarn. Once I've got that grabbed, I'll take it and I'm going to wrap it around the back side of my index and my middle finger so that it's sort of close to that top digit. I'll flip my hand over so you can see. So I want it to be close to my top digit, so you can see it's closer to the two tops of my fingers here. So we're going to wrap that around, and then once we've got it around the top digit of those two fingers, we're going to bring it so that it goes behind our thumb again. So I use my thumb and I pinch that second wrap in place. Then we're going to keep wrapping, this time going around the lower digit on our two fingers. So I'll flip my hand over so you can see these two wraps here. This is that one I just made, going around that lower digit. So we'll wrap around that lower digit, and then we're going to take our working yarn and one more time snug it behind our thumb, and then just pull it out of our way. So once we've done that, we should have two wraps and this sort of X shape on the insides of our hands. So once we have all of the yarn wrapped around our yarn hand here, we're ready to take our crochet hook in our hook hand, and we're going to flip our yarn hand over so that we're looking at the back side of our fingers. So we should have two wraps, one around the top digit, one around the lower digit on our yarn hand. We're going to take our hook and slip it underneath that top wrap, and then use the hook part to snag that lower wrap and bring it underneath the top wrap. Then we're going to take both of our hands and we're going to flip them over so that we're looking at the inside and away from our body. So I'm flipping out and away from my body. And then I'm going to bring my two hands together, so my yarn hand and my hook hand. I'm going to bring them so the index finger here on my hook hand can touch the back side of my yarn hand. Then using the thumb and index finger of my hook hand, I'm going to grab both the wrap on my hook and the wrap still on my fingers right where they meet. So I'm going to kind of snag the two of them together right there. Once I've got those pinched between my thumb and index finger on my hook hand, I can let go with my thumb and then gently slide those wraps off of my index and middle finger. So now that I've done that, Let's locate both the tail, that's the end that's no longer attached to our ball of yarn, so it's got this blunt cut end on it. And we're going to kind of pull that over into the 12 o'clock position, so kind of up and away. And then let's locate the working yarn. That's the stuff still attached to our ball of yarn. So once we've got those two identified, we're going to take the working yarn and begin tensioning it. So to do that, we'll take our index finger on our yarn hand. That for me is my left hand. Could be your right hand for you if you're a left-handed crocheter. And we're going to slip the working yarn over the top of our index finger. Then we'll take our middle, ring, and pinky finger on our yarn hand, and we're going to wrap those around that working yarn. Once you've done that, we also need to sandwich this working yarn in between our magic ring and our tail. So to do that, I like to take my middle finger and thumb on my yarn hand, and I'm going to grab that tail with my middle finger here. And then with my thumb, I want to grab the ring. So we don't want to grab our working yarn, which is kind of going in through that ring. We want to just get the bottom end of the ring here. And once you've got those two, we're going to kind of pinch them together. And you can see that sandwiches our working yarn in between the two of them. Once we've got those grabbed with our yarn hand, we can let go with our index and thumb on our hook hand. And the ring here that's on our hook is really loose. We'll tighten that by pulling our index finger up and away. You can see how that tightens that yarn. And then once we've done that, we're ready to yarn over and draw through the loop on our hook. So we'll take our hook, put the yarn over our hook. So I kind of just swing around the back side there and grab it. And we're going to pull that working yarn directly through the loop on our hook. Once we've done that, you can let go. It's not going to come undone. It won't come untied, which is very comforting because we've spent all this time creating it. The last thing we need to do before we're ready to begin is we're going to take the tail, and you can see it's threaded through our magic ring. We're going to take that tail and we're going to pull it out from the center of that ring. And from here, we're ready to begin working in the magic ring. We also need to work over the tail as well. So we'll take that ring and we'll take the tail and we're going to set them together so that we are working over both of these strands, the ring and the tail. All right, you are ready to go ahead and continue on in your pattern. Okay, so now that we have our magic ring formed, we're ready to start in on round 1. And when we work this first round of single crochet stitches inside of our magic ring, we need to be really careful not to work them too tightly or we're going to have trouble pulling the tail with this fluffy yarn. So working these stitches nice and loose, we're going to start by taking our crochet hook and going in through the ring and under the tail we used to tie the ring. Then we'll yarn under. So we're going to put the yarn underneath our crochet hook and then pull that yarn through our magic ring and up into a nice tall loop here on our crochet hook. Then we're going to yarn over, so putting the yarn over our crochet hook and pulling that yarn through the 2 loops left on our crochet hook. That forms our first single crochet stitch, which we're going to want to mark with a stitch marker here. So I'm going to take my stitch marker and slip it underneath both of the little legs of the V on the top of our stitch and then lock it in place. So we need to add another 5 single crochet stitches in that same way to the inside of this ring and over the tail itself. So again, going through our magic ring, yarning under, drawing up a nice tall loop, then yarning over and drawing through both. So you can see that forms that second stitch. Alright, so there are all 6 of my single crochet stitches added to this magic ring, and I'm ready to do the magic ring part. I'm going to pull pretty gently on this tail here so that it closes this round, and be careful because with bulky yarn this sometimes will break, so pull gently, and that closes off round 1 and sets us up for round 2. So round 2 we're going to be placing increases in each of the 6 stitches we made from round 1. And an increase is when we put 2 single crochet stitches in the same space from the previous round. So our first stitch of the round is marked for us. We're going to take that stitch marker out and then slip our crochet hook from front to back underneath both legs of that stitch. And then from here it's just like how we made our single crochet stitches in the magic ring. We'll yarn under and draw up a nice tall loop, then yarn over and draw through both loops on our hook. We also need to mark that stitch that we've just created. We're always going to mark that first stitch of the round. It helps us keep track of where we are in our pattern. And then to finish off that increase, we need to add a second single crochet stitch in the same space that we just put our first stitch. So we're going to go back through that same stitch, yarn under and draw up a loop, then yarn over and draw through both. You can see we have 2 stitches coming out of the same hole or stitch from our previous round. So we're going to continue increasing, so we're going to kind of rotate our work, go through this next stitch here, the second single crochet stitch we made from the last round, yarn under and draw up a nice tall loop, then yarn over and draw through both. Make a second single crochet stitch in that same space. So there's our second increase. Go to our next stitch. And we're going to continue increasing in each of these stitches all the way around. Alright, so there's my last increase, and I should have 12 stitches total. That's that number at the end of our instructions in parentheses. Before I move on to round 3, I'm going to give my magic ring tail one final tug, and tug kind of gently on it. Then flip my work over and take my scissors and give this magic ring tail a trim. So I'm not going to trim it all the way off, just short, and discard what I trim. And that's going to keep our magic ring tail out of our way as we continue working around. Alright, so we're ready for round 3. We have a parentheses now in our instructions. And what that means is we need to do everything inside of those parentheses in the order that they appear, the amount of times outside. So let's dive right into that. We'll take our stitch marker out, and in that same stitch it was just in, we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch. And then mark that because it's the first stitch of the round. Then in the next stitch we're going to increase, so 2 single crochet stitches in the same place. And that is everything inside of those parentheses 1 time. We need to repeat that 6 times total, so another 5 repetitions of that pattern. So 1 single crochet stitch in the next stitch of the round, and in the stitch right after that, an increase. And that's my second repetition. I'll repeat that until I am all the way around this round, and I have 18 stitches total. Alright, that's round 3 done for me. Round 4, we've got another parentheses pattern, but this time we need to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches before we increase. So we'll put that first single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round and then mark it. And then we need to put another single crochet stitch in the next stitch of the round, and then an increase right after. And that's one repetition, so we're going to repeat that pattern 5 more times for a total of 6 repetitions. So 2 single crochet stitches followed by 1 increase. Alright, so that's round 4 done for me. I'm ready to move on to round 5. We'll put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 3 stitches of our round. And then an increase in the stitch after. And then repeat that pattern another 5 times for a total of 6. Alright, that's round 5 done for me. Round 6, we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch all the way around. So that's just 1 single crochet stitch in each. Alright, so that's round 6 done for me. Round 7, we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 4 stitches of the round. So there's my first, and I've marked it. There are those first 4, and then an increase. Then we're going to repeat that pattern of 4 single crochet stitches, increase 5 more times for a total of 6 repetitions. Alright, so that was round 7. For rounds 8 and 9, we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch all the way around. So don't forget, when you start each new round, you'll need to remark the beginning of your row. So here I am marking round 8. And I will see you back here whenever I have finished the last single crochet stitch of round 9 and we're ready to move on to round 10 together. Alright, so I just made the last single crochet stitch of round 9 and I'm ready for round 10. We're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 5 stitches of our round. Alright, so there are those 5 single crochet stitches and then 1 increase. And then we're going to repeat that pattern of 5 single crochet increase another 5 times for a total of 6 repetitions. Alright, so that was the last increase of round 10. So for rounds 11 through 15, just like with rounds 8 and 9, we're going to put one single crochet stitch in each stitch all the way around. So don't forget to move your stitch marker up at the beginning of each round, and I will see you back here whenever I have finished that last single crochet stitch of round 15. I'm ready to move on to round 16 together. Okay, so I've just finished the last single crochet stitch of round 15 and ready to move on to round 16, where we're starting by placing one single crochet stitch in the next 5 stitches of our round. And then we need to make a decrease. So to do our decrease, we're going to take our crochet hook and go through our next single crochet stitch, yarn under and draw up a loop, and then do that exact same thing in the stitch right after. So we're going to go through, yarn under and draw up a loop, and then we're going to yarn over and draw through all 3 of the loops left on our crochet hook. So that's going to take 2 stitches from the previous round and decrease them into 1 stitch for this round, which reduces the amount of stitches that we're going to have when we're done with this round. So we're going to repeat that pattern of 5 single crochet stitches, decrease, another 5 times for a total of 6 repetitions all the way around this round. Alright, that's round 16 done. Round 17, we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 4 stitches of the round. And then a decrease. Then repeat that pattern another 5 times for a total of 6 repetitions. Alright, that's round 17 done. Round 18, we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 3 stitches of the round. And then decrease. Then repeat that pattern 5 more times for a total of 6. Alright, so there's that last decrease there of round 18. At this point, I'm going to start stuffing the body. So I'm going to take this loop on my hook, I'm going to pull it long and remove my hook. And then we need to add some stuffing to the inside of the body here. Alright, so I have some stuffing on the inside of the body, and we're going to stuff a little more towards the end here, so don't worry about putting a ton of stuffing in at this point. We just kind of want to get started before this opening gets any smaller. So we can take our crochet hook and push it back through and pull that loop down by tightening on the working yarn. And we're ready for round 19. We're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches of our round. and then decrease. Then repeat that pattern 5 more times for a total of 6 times all the way around. Alright, that's round 19 done. For round 20, I'm going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round. And then decrease. Then repeat that pattern, 1 single crochet stitch, decrease, all the way around. Alright, so there's that last decrease there of round 20. I'm going to add the remainder of my stuffing at this point, so I'm going to pull that loop up long, take my crochet hook out, and add just a little more stuffing to the inside of the body at this point. Alright, so there's the body stuffed. We've got one more round left to make here, so round 21, we're going to decrease in each stitch all the way around. Alright, so there was that last decrease, and I'm ready to fasten off by slip stitching to that next stitch. So I'm going to take my stitch marker out, and to slip stitch we're going to go through where that stitch was, yarn under, and draw up a loop. And the loop that we just created we're going to draw through the only other loop left on our crochet hook, and that's how you slip stitch. And then we need to cut a long tail to sew with our working yarn. So I'll reserve myself maybe 12 inches or so and give that working yarn a trim. Then I'm going to pull the loop on my hook until the tail that I just trimmed passes through that loop too. And then pull tightly on that tail to tighten our slip stitch down. Then we're going to take the tail that we've just created and thread it through the eye of our tapestry needle. And then we're going to sew through each of the front loops left behind from those 6 decreases that we made. So when we crochet, we've been going through the front and the back loop. If you can see here on my crochet hook, I've got both little sides of that V on my hook. When we're sewing through, we're going to grab just the front loop, which is just this loop closest to the surface of our work. So the way I like to sew through just the front loop is I slip my tapestry needle up and through and between both sides of that stitch, snagging just the front loop here. And I'm going to pull that tail, rotate, and sew through my next front loop. And just keep rotating around until I've sewn through all 6 of those front loops left behind. Alright, once you've sewn through all 6 front loops, we're going to pull gently to close this last round. And then we need to secure this cinch that we've made by tying a knot. To do that, we're going to take our tail and make a little loop or an O over the surface of our work. Take the tip of our tapestry needle and sew through one of those front loops, the one that we sewed through the first, and up through that loop, and then pull our tail so that loop wraps itself around the tail, which forms a knot. Then we're going to weave this tail in by sewing it into the fabric of the body and out through a random stitch. Then we can unthread our tapestry needle And by pulling this tail and trimming close to the fabric of our body, we can trim the excess and discard. Alright, so that is the body complete. Alright, so next up we need to make the horns. I'm going to be using this worsted weight light blue yarn here, and then the smaller of my 2 crochet hooks. And we need to begin by forming another magic ring. Alright, so now that I have my magic ring formed, I'm ready for round 1, which is to put 4 single crochet stitches inside of this magic ring. Alright, so I have all 4 of those single crochet stitches inside of my magic ring. I'm going to pull the tail to close off round 1, which sets me up for round 2. And if you look round 2 through 9, all of the rounds left on the horn, we're going to begin with an increase each time. So 1 increase here at the beginning of round 2. I'm going to mark that first stitch of the increase. And then 1 single crochet stitch in the remaining 3 stitches of the round. And before we move on to round 3, let's give this magic ring tail a trim. So again, short but not off. Discard what you've trimmed. And we're ready for round 3, starting with another increase. And then 1 single crochet stitch in the remaining 4 stitches of the round. Alright, that's round 3 done. Round 4, beginning with another increase. And then 1 single crochet stitch in the remaining 5 stitches of the round. Alright, that's round 4 done. Round 5, we've got, again, another increase. And then 1 single crochet stitch in the remaining 6 stitches of the round. Alright, then we're ready for round 6, starting with 1 increase. Then 1 single crochet stitch in the remaining 7 stitches of the round. Round 7, we'll make 1 increase. And then 1 single crochet stitch in the remaining 8 stitches of the round. Okay, ready for round 8, starting with 1 increase. And then 1 single crochet stitch in the remaining 9 stitches of the round. Right, that's round 8, and then round 9, which is the last round of the horn. 1 increase. followed by 1 single crochet stitch in the remaining 10 stitches of the round. Alright, so there's that last single crochet stitch of round 9, ready to fasten off by slip stitching to the next stitch and cutting a long tail for sewing. So we'll slip stitch, and then reserve yourself about 12 inches or so of this blue colored yarn. Then we'll pull that last loop on our hook until our tail comes through too, and tighten down. Then we also need to add a little stuffing to the inside of the horn. And if you look, our horn has this nice curved shape to it along where all of those increases were. So we need to stuff, but not so stuffed that that curve gets stuffed out. So just add a little to the inside. Alright, and that is one of the horns complete. Let's make one more and then get them attached to the body. Alright, so I have both of my horns crocheted and I am ready to get them attached to the body. So the horns are going to go around round 4 and 5 at the top of the head and are going to be about 6 stitches or 6 rows apart. And I'm going to be using some straight pins to help position mine so I make sure that they're lined up where I'd like them to be. So our horns also have these nice curves. We're going to make it so that they both curve sort of outwards and kind of come tip this way into the inside of the head. So first let's locate rounds 4 and 5. So starting with our magic ring, 1, 2, 3, 4. So our first horn I'm going to go ahead and slot onto that spot here, and then add a few straight pins to kind of keep it in place. You don't need to use straight pins, of course. It's just helpful if you want to see how it looks before you start sewing. I'll do the same thing on the other side with my other horn. So count out from 1, 2, 3, 4. There's rounds 4 and 5. And they line up this direction as well, so I'll go ahead and add a few straight pins to this one too. Alright, so now that I have the horns pinned on where I'd like them to be attached, I'm going to go ahead and sew the horns on next. So I'll take the tail left over from one of those horns. I'm going to thread it through the eye of my tapestry needle, and I'm using a smaller tapestry needle here because I'm using a smaller weight yarn for the horn. And to attach the horn on, we're going to sew through each of the stitches left behind from that last round when we crocheted. So grab some of the fabric of your body and sew up through one of those stitches. And we're going to continue working around, sewing through some of the fabric of the body and then some of the fabric of that last round stitch until we've sewn the horn on all the way around. Alright, so I've sewn all the way around and this horn is completely attached. So to secure that last stitch and all the stitches that I've sewn, we need to tie another surface knot, just like we did when we closed off the bottom of the body here. So I'm going to first ensure that the tail I've been sewing with is coming out of the horn and not out of the head. The horn's the same color as the tail, so it's easier to hide the knot on the horn. Then, just like with the bottom of the body, I'm going to make another loop or O shape. Then sew up through that last stitch that I sewed through to attach the horn, and then up through that O or loop. And then pull that tail until the O wraps itself around my working yarn, which ties a knot. And then sew down and into the horn and into the fabric of the body, and out through a random stitch on the body. Just going to weave that knot and the tail in. Then I can unthread my tapestry needle, and by pulling that tail tightly and trimming close to the fabric of my work, weaves the excess in. And that is this horn attached, so we need to repeat that same process on this side with this horn. Alright, so I have both of the horns sewn on and I'm ready to move on to the next section of my pattern. Alright, so next up we need to make the legs, and we're going to again be working in this sort of lighter blue colored yarn and with our smaller of the two hooks for our pattern. And we're going to start by forming a magic ring. Alright, so now that we have our magic ring formed, we're ready for round 1, which is to put 8 single crochet stitches inside of this magic ring. Alright, once you've got all 8 single crochet stitches, you can pull the tail to close off round 1. And round 2, we're going to increase in each stitch from round 1. Alright, that's round 2 done. I'm going to flip my work over and give that magic ring tail a quick trim before I move on to round 3. Alright, round 3 we've got a parentheses pattern to repeat, starting with 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round. And then 1 increase. And we're going to repeat that pattern 7 more times for a total of 8 times. Alright, that's round 3 done. So rounds 4, 5, and 6, we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in every stitch all the way around. So don't forget, as you start each new round, you need to move your stitch marker up to the first stitch of each. I'll see you back here whenever I'm done with round 6, and we're ready to move on to round 7 together. Alright, so I just finished round 6. I'm ready for round 7. I'm going to start by putting 1 single crochet stitch in the next 4 stitches of the round. Alright, there are those 4 single crochet stitches, and I'm going to make 8 decreases back to back here. So there's my first decrease. I'll just keep decreasing. Alright, so there are those 8 decreases. I'll end by putting 1 single crochet stitch in the remaining 4 stitches of the round. Alright, that's round 7 done. I'm ready for round 8, starting again with another 4 single crochet stitches. Alright, there are those 4 single crochet stitches, and I'm going to make 4 decreases back to back. So decreasing 4 times in a row. Alright, so there are those 4 decreases, then 1 single crochet stitch in the remaining 4 stitches of the round. Alright, now that round 8 is done, we're going to add a little stuffing to the bottom of the leg or the foot here. So let's pull that last loop up long on our hook, take our hook out, and then let's add some stuffing to the inside here. Alright, so I've got some stuffing added to the bottom of the leg. I'm ready to go ahead and reinsert my hook and then pull on that working yarn to tighten it down. And then for rounds 9 through 12, we're going to just add 1 single crochet stitch to every stitch all the way around. So don't forget to move your stitch marker up as you start your next round. I'll see you back here for round 12 when we're ready to fasten off and stuff the leg. Alright, so I just made the last single crochet stitch here of round 12, and I'm ready to fasten off by slip stitching to that next stitch. So I'll take my stitch marker out and slip stitch. Then we need to reserve a little tail to sew with. So just like with the horns, let's save about 12 inches or so and then trim. And then pull that last loop until the tail we've cut passes through as well. And then tighten down. Then we need to add a little stuffing to the leg here. Alright, and that wraps up one of the legs, so we need to make one more and then get them attached to the body. Alright, so I have both of my legs made, and if you look where we made all these decreases along the front here, that's going to be the toe. So we want these toes to be facing forward when we attach the legs on. So we're going to go ahead and grab the body, and they're going to get attached to the last 2 rounds here and about 2 stitches apart. So toes facing forward and double checking that they're centered so that the toes are pointing forward and the horns are aligned to the outsides of the head. So I'm going to go ahead and pin my legs on as well, like I did with my horns, so I get a good idea where they're going to be. So there's the first leg pinned. I'll pin the second leg. Then again, about 2 stitches apart here on the bottom of the body with the toe facing forward. Alright, so I'm going to double check that I like the position on those legs, and I do, so I'm ready to go ahead and begin sewing them on. And they're going to get attached just like the horns did. We'll take the tail from one of the legs, thread it through the eye of our tapestry needle here. And then we're going to sew the leg on by sewing through some of the fabric of the body itself, and then up through one of those stitches from the last round of the leg. Alright, so once you're all the way around on the leg, just like with the horn, let's make sure that the tail is coming out of some of the fabric of the leg. Then we'll tie another surface knot in the fabric of the leg to secure our stitches. And then weave this tail into the fabric of the leg and out through a random stitch here on the body. Unthread our tapestry needle, and then trim and discard any excess we didn't end up needing. And that is one of the legs attached, so we need to repeat with the other leg on the other side. Alright, so I have both of the feet attached and we're ready to move on to the next part of the pattern. Alright, so we're starting it on the face, again with that lighter blue colored yarn and our smaller sized crochet hook. And we need to begin with another magic ring. Alright, now that I have my magic ring formed, I'm ready for round 1, which is to put 6 single crochet stitches inside of this ring. Alright, there are my 6 single crochet stitches. I'll pull the tail to close off round 1. And I'm ready for round 2, which is to increase in each stitch all the way around. Alright, that's round 2 done. Before I move on to round 3, I'll pull the magic ring tail tightly one last time, flip my work over, and give that tail a trim. Alright, and I'm ready for round 3, where we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round. and then an increase in the next stitch. And repeat that pattern 5 more times for a total of 6 times. Alright, that's round 3 done. Round 4, we'll put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches of the round. And then 1 increase. And repeat that pattern 5 more times for a total of 6 times. Alright, that's round 4 done. Round 5, we'll put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 3 stitches of the round. And then 1 increase. And repeat that pattern 5 more times for a total of 6 times. Alright, that's round 5 done. Round 6, we're going to begin by putting 1 single crochet stitch in the first 2 stitches of the round. Followed by 1 increase. Then we've got a parentheses pattern to repeat, starting with 1 single crochet stitch in the next 4 stitches of the round. And then 1 increase. And we'll repeat that 5 times total, so another 4 times. Alright, so there's that last repetition of that parentheses pattern. Then I need to put 1 single crochet stitch in the remaining 2 stitches of my round. Which wraps up round 6. Round 7, we're going to begin by putting 1 single crochet stitch in the next 5 stitches of our round. And then 1 increase. Then repeat that pattern another 5 times for a total of 6 times. Alright, that's round 7 done. We're ready for round 8, and we're going to start by putting 1 single crochet stitch in the first 5 stitches of the round. Alright, so there are those first 5 single crochet stitches. Then we need to put 1 half double crochet stitch in the next 3 stitches of our round. So to make a half double crochet stitch, we're going to yarn under. So to make a half double crochet stitch, we need to yarn over. So we're going to put the yarn over our hook, then go through our next single crochet stitch and yarn under again and yarn over again. Then draw that yarn over through our stitch and up into a nice tall loop on our hook. Then yarn over one last time and draw through all 3 of those loops left on our crochet hook. So there's one half double crochet stitch. We need to make 2 more. So again, we're going to yarn over, go through our next stitch, yarn over again, draw that yarn over through our loop, yarn over and draw through all 3. One more half double crochet, so yarn over, yarn over, so there are those 3 half double crochet stitches. Then in the next 4 stitches, we need to put 1 double crochet stitch. And we'll start that just like we did our half double crochet by yarning over, then going through our next stitch, yarning over again and drawing that up through our stitch. Then we're going to yarn over and draw through 2 of the loops on our hook. Then yarn over one last time and draw through the 2 remaining loops on our hook. So there's that first double crochet stitch, yarn over, go through our next stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop, yarn over and draw through 2, yarn over and draw through 2, there's our second. Here's our third double crochet stitch. And our fourth. Then we need to make 3 more half double crochet stitches. And remember, we're going to draw through all 3 of these, which makes it a little shorter than our double crochet. There are those 3 half double crochet, then 1 single crochet stitch in the next 11 stitches. Alright, there are those 11 single crochet stitches. Then we're going to repeat that pattern like we did before. 3 half double crochet, 4 double crochet, 3 half double crochet. Alright, and then we'll wrap up this round by single crocheting in the 6 remaining stitches of the round. Alright, so there are those 6 last single crochet stitches. Then we're going to fasten off by slip stitching to the first stitch. So we'll take that stitch marker out and slip stitch through. And then we're going to cut a long tail for this because we're going to use it to sew this part of the face to the body. So reserve yourself 14 inches or so. We'll need probably a little bit more than we did for the horns and legs. And then pull that last stitch long and tighten. All right, and then we've got some sewing to do here, starting with the teeth. So the teeth are going to be attached on the 5th round of the face. So first, let's make sure our faces are angled the same way. That half double crochet and double crochet stitches that we added to the top and the bottom kind of made it more of an oval shape. So we want those facing either side. We want it to be an oval that's sort of horizontal in shape. Alright, so now that we have our face angled the right direction, I'm going to go ahead and add the teeth first. So I'm going to be using some white worsted weight yarn, and I'll thread it through the eye of my tapestry needle here. And our teeth are going to be on round 5 and about 6 stitches apart. So let's count down from round 1 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and about 6 stitches apart. So I'm going to make my first tooth on this row, round 5, over on this corner. And I'm going to send my white yarn up through the bottom of round 5, and we're going to be sewing over round 5's stitch. And I'm not going to send all of my yarn through. I'm going to leave a tail here on the back side of the face so I can tie the ends together when I'm done sewing. Alright, so let's make the first tooth here on this side. We're going to be sewing over the stitches of round 5 here and in a triangle shape. So I'm going to sew up over this stitch in round 5. And then I'm going to make a triangle by sewing into this next stitch over and then up through that same space. So I'll sew down through the same stitch I came up through. And I'll add a third stitch here. I'm going to go down through that same space again. And then I'm going to fill in a few more of the stitches. And then I'm going to send one stitch along the bottom of the tooth here to make it nice and flat. And I'll send it down the bottom of that first stitch that I made here, which gives us a nice triangle shape. And we're going to repeat 6 stitches apart from here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to come up through round 5 over on this side. Then I'm going to sew that same shape, that triangle shape, over on this side of the face to be the second tooth. Right, so there's the tooth. I'm going to go ahead and sew a straight stitch here along the bottom to give it sort of a flat edge. And then I'm going to send the tail back over to this side to tie them together. So I'm just going to slip it along the back sides of these stitches here. This is the back of the face, and you won't see it because it's going to be sandwiched to the body. So I'm just grabbing some of the backs of these stitches because I want to tie these two tails together to secure the teeth. Okay, so those are back right by one another. I'll unthread my needle and I'll tie them together into a loose square, or a tight square knot. And then I'm going to trim them short, but not all the way off. Alright, so there are the teeth sewn on. Next we need to add the smile, which is going to run underneath those teeth. Alright, so I'm going to be using some black worsted weight yarn here. I'll thread it through just like I did with the white. I'm going to come up here on the outside part of the tooth on this side of the face, the first one that I sewed. And we're going to be running the smile along this round here that both of the teeth sit on. So first, let's sew a nice long loose straight stitch going down in through the corner of the opposite tooth here on this side. And then to keep that smile running along the stitch that we want it to be running through, I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to sew up into that space between where that stitch is going to run, and then wrap that yarn around itself. So I'm going to wrap it around that long straight stitch and sort of pull it so that it sits down into this round here. Then I'll sew straight back through the same stitch I came up through, and that's going to wrap around and hold that stitch in place. We'll probably want to run a couple more of those to make sure that this sits nice and flat along the bottom of the other tooth as well. So I'll come up through that same space here. And then wrap around, and then sew back down through that same space. And you know what, let's go ahead and do the same thing on this side here to kind of keep it down where we want it to be. We'll sew back down. And that's going to keep our smile anchored here along the bottom of the face. So then we can flip our work over, and we need to send this again over to this side here. So I'll just catch a couple of the back sides of the stitches. And it's okay if your back side's a bit of a mess. Again, it's going to be hidden behind as it's going to sit on the Yeti's face. And we'll tie these two ends together just like we did with the white for the teeth. Alright, so there are the teeth and the smile. So next up we need to get the nose embroidered on. So the nose is going to go right over the magic ring at the beginning of the face. And we're going to be using some of this blue color that we used on the face itself. So let's go ahead and get that threaded through our tapestry needle. And then we're going to sew from the back to the front over this first round that we made. And again, leave a little bit of a tail on the back side. We're going to come back and tie on to that. And we're going to run 2 straight stitches across the front of the face. So here's my first. I'll come back up through that same space. And sew down through that same space again. So these 2 stitches are going to serve as an anchor, and we're going to wrap this yarn around to form the nose. So let's sew up through this corner here. And then we're going to just pass the yarn underneath these 2 anchor stitches and wrap the yarn around and around to form the nose. Alright, so you can see I have that anchor stitch pretty well wrapped with that blue colored yarn. So I'm going to send it back down to the back side of the mask. Then I'm going to tie these 2 ends together and trim just like I did with the teeth and with the smile. And then trim. Alright, so there is the nose, and then last we need to add the eyes. So just like with the smile, I'm going to be using some more black worsted weight yarn here. And the eyes are going to be here along either side of the nose. So I'm going to send mine so that's even with this tooth on this side of the face. And they're going to be sort of a gentle slanting curve, so he looks a little sleepy. So I'm going to come up through and then not bring all of my yarn through, leave some at the back to tie on. And I want this stitch to sort of slant a little bit, so I'm going to sew a loose straight stitch and then, just like we did with our smile, anchor it with some wraps. So I'm going to sew kind of even where the corner of the mouth is here. And I want this to kind of slant a little bit, so I'm going to send my stitch up kind of where I want that slant to be. And we'll wrap it around the stitch just like we did around the smile here, and then sew back down through the same stitch we came up through. Which will pull that stitch into sort of a slanted shape. Alright, so let's repeat on the other side with the other eye. I'm going to come up here. And sew a similar shape on this side. Alright, so there are the eyes, and I'm ready to go ahead and fasten this off by, again, sending it over to where that tail is at the very beginning. So I'll just snag a couple of stitches on my way over to it. Unthread my tapestry needle, and then tie these two tails together. And trim. Alright, and that is the face completely embroidered on, so now we are ready to go ahead and get it attached to the body. So we're going to go ahead and place it here on the body, and I'm going to double check that everything's in line the way I want it to be in line, and then pin, because we don't want the face to twist around on us as we sew. Alright, so I have the face pinned on. I'm going to do one double check to make sure everything's aligned and straight. And once it is, I can go ahead and begin sewing it on, taking the tail left over from when we crocheted the face, and attaching it really similarly to how we attached the legs and the horns. We'll take some of the fabric of the body, sew it through one of the stitches of the face, and work our way all the way around until everything is attached. Alright, so once you've sewn all the way around, we're ready to fasten off. We're going to do it the same way we've done all of the sewn on pieces so far. Tie another surface knot. And then send that tail into the fabric of the face and out through a random stitch here on the body. Then unthread your tapestry needle, pull tight, and trim. Alright, and that is the face attached to the body, so let's move on to the next part of the pattern. Alright, so last thing we need to crochet are the arms. Again, using this blue colored yarn and our smaller size hook. We're going to begin with another magic ring. Alright, so once we have our magic ring formed, we're ready for round one, which is to put 6 single crochet stitches inside of that magic ring. Alright, once you have all 6 single crochet stitches, you can pull the tail to close round one, which sets us up for round two, which is to put 6 increases, one in each of the 6 stitches from round one. Alright, so there's my last increase. Before I move on to round 3, I'm going to tighten that magic ring tail, flip my work over, give it a trim. And I'm ready for round 3, which is to put 1 single crochet stitch in each of the 12 stitches we just made for round 2. Alright, that's round 3 done. I'm ready for round 4, starting with 1 single crochet stitch in the next 5 stitches of the round. So there's my first single crochet stitch. And there are all 5 of those single crochet stitches. Then we're going to make a bobble stitch in our next stitch. And we're going to start by yarning over, just like we did with our double crochet and half double crochet stitches. Go through our next stitch, yarn over again, and draw up a loop. Then yarn over and draw through 2 loops. So there's 1. We need to make another 4 of that same stitch coming out of that same stitch we went into. So we'll yarn over, go through that same stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop, yarn over and draw through 2. So there's 2. Yarn over, go through that same stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over and draw through 2. There are 3. There's my 4th. I need to do that one more time. So yarn over, go through that same stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over and draw through 2. So you can see I have 5 almost finished double crochet stitches stacked here on my crochet hook, and the loop left over from the single crochet stitch I made right before. To wrap up this bobble stitch, we're going to yarn over and draw through all 6 of those loops on our hook, which forms the bobble stitch. Then we need to put 1 single crochet stitch in the 6 remaining stitches of our round. So this first one that you make, we're going to kind of have to stretch our hook over and then make our single crochet stitch. And then we need to take our hand and push this bobble stitch so that it pops to the surface of our work. So I'm kind of push all of those little stitches to the surface here. They like to hide out on the inside sometimes, so just give it a push. So there's that first single crochet stitch, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Alright, so that's round 4 done. Rounds 5 and 6, we're going to put 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch all the way around, but I want to show you how to work over the bobble stitch that we just made, because it looks a little different than the single crochet stitches. So here's my first stitch of round 5, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then if you kind of look along the inside of our bobble stitch, there's the loop we need to work in for it. It kind of hides out a little bit, so you'll have to kind of push the bobble stitch down and then grab the 2 loops that we normally work through. So there's that single crochet stitch for the bobble stitch, and then continue working in each stitch as normal. Alright, so that's round 5. Let's go ahead and work round 6 together. Just 1 single crochet stitch in each all the way around. Alright, so that's round 6 done. Let's go ahead and add some stuffing to the inside of the hand here. Alright, so there's the hand stuffed. Ready for round 7, where I'm going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the next 2 stitches of the round. And then decrease. And repeat that pattern another 2 times for a total of 3 times. So 2 single crochet stitches, 1 decrease. Alright, that's round 7. So for rounds 8 through 15, we're going to be putting 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch all the way around. So every couple of rounds, maybe every 2 or so, we're going to want to add a little bit of stuffing as we go, because this arm's kind of narrow and hard to stuff at the end. So here I am working round 8, just 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch all the way around. And I'll start in on round 9. Alright, so there's the last single crochet of round 9. I'm going to add a little stuffing here before I move on to round 10. So just take a pinch. And I'm going to stuff this arm as I work. Every few rounds, stopping to add a pinch of stuffing as I go. Alright, so I will see you back here whenever I am ready to make round 16. So once I finish round 15. Alright, so I just finished the last single crochet stitch of round 15. I'm going to add a little more stuffing before I make my last round, which is round 16. And you can see I've been stuffing as I go, which is really helpful to do on smaller rounded things like this arm. Alright, and I'm ready for round 16, which is my last round. I'm going to put 1 single crochet stitch in the first stitch of the round. Then decrease, and repeat that another 2 times. Okay, and I'm ready to fasten off, so I'll take this stitch marker out and slip stitch in the stitch it was just in. And we need a long tail to sew with. We'll use it to attach the arm to the body. Then pull this last stitch through and tighten down. And that is one of the arms. Let's make the second and then get them attached. Alright, so I have both of the arms made here, and you can see that bobble stitch that we made is the thumb. So we're going to sew them on so that the thumbs point outwards or towards the face. So let's grab our Yeti here. And they're going to attach to either side of the body with the thumbs pointing outwards. So they're even with the middle of the face and in line with the feet and the legs here. So I'm going to go ahead and thread the tail from one of those arms through my tapestry needle. And then when we sew, we're going to be sewing through both layers of fabric here of the arm. So I'm going to lay my arm here on the side of the body. And you can see I'm even kind of with the nose and in line with the legs. And we'll sew by grabbing a little of the fabric of the body and then sew through both layers at the top of the arm. And we're just going to whip stitch our way through both layers and across the top of the body until the arm is attached. Alright, so once you've sewn all the way across, we're going to tie another surface knot in the fabric of the arm here. And I'm going to weave the tail into the fabric of the arm and out through a random stitch. And then unthread my tapestry needle and trim. So that is one arm attached. Let's get the other arm attached to finish the pattern. Alright, so I have the arms attached, and with that, that wraps up the Yarn Yetis tutorial.